This is Dottie Howe, the Communications Director at CliniSync. And as a new CliniSync member, you'll be asked to watch a series of videos to educate you about the community health record. Today, what you're going to see is a supplemental video on the community health record that does a deeper dive into how to fill out the build form, to follow a checklist, and to fill out the participant agreement. This will supplement the onboarding video series part 5, profiles, prerequisites, and support. And I'd like to introduce Karen Bishop, who will walk you through how to fill out these forms.
Thank you, Dottie. Okay, so what Dottie has said is we're going to cover that participation agreement, just a few tips on there, as well as the user build form and the project checklist. Now, some of our assumptions are, as we're going through this supplemental video, is that you are only signing up with CliniSync at this time anyway, to utilize the community health record portal, that you are, again, planning to use it for query access for your staff. You're not using an SSO type of functionality or PDMP to query ORs. So that way, just keep that in mind as you kind of watch this supplemental video, that that's what we have in mind as we're running through this piece. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that CliniSync participant agreement, and I'm going to pull it over here into view. Okay, so first you're going to see page 1, and on page 1, this is where we collect quite a bit of information from you. Okay, so you'll notice there are several fields there. This is a PDF fillable form, so you'll be able to just click into the spaces and fill that in. You'll be able to save it locally to your PC, and then you'll be able to send this back to us as well electronically. So just for ease of use, it's normally easier just to fill it right out on your PC. And down at the bottom here, of course, we have your CliniSync Community Outreach Manager. So if you could fill in their name there, that allows us to keep this paperwork together and kind of process it through it much quicker. Now let's go ahead and look then at page 2. This is the first part that you're going to see a place for a signature. So you'll notice here at the bottom that you can electronically sign this document. The signer of this document does need to be someone who's fiscally responsible at your organization or an authorized signer. Okay, so we're going to scroll down just a little bit further here to page 3 of this particular document. It's called Additional Facilities. So if you are a multi-facility organization, please go ahead and record those for us as well, to include if they have a separate EIN or NPI number. Okay, on the next page, it just talks about in section 1, CliniSync services. These are all our no-cost options. The community health record, of course, is what we're looking at here. You could certainly put an X there in the box. However, we will get with you to move through those projects. Okay, and the next one we're going to look at is page 6. Now, page 6 is for billable services, for things like contribute and notify. So again, our assumption was you're not going to be using this at this time. So go ahead and you can either put NA in any of these fields, or you can just simply leave it blank. When we execute this, we're going to put a big red slash across it. If you do choose to use these services at a later date, then we'll send you an addendum to capture that. So now I'm going to jump down to page 21. Page 21 begins the business associate agreement of our participation agreement. So here within this particular area here, you're going to go ahead and type in your organization name. And then lastly, we're going to go all the way down to page 24, which is the last page of the agreement. And here again is another place for your signature. And this is due to this being the BAA portion. So in review, just some tips. So again, this is a PDF fillable format of our agreement, which is going to allow you to type in the fields to save it and return it to us via email. And again, just a note that the signer of the PA must be an authorized signer for your organization or someone who is fiscally responsible. Please keep in mind that we do need to have back all pages of the participant agreement in order to execute. So this is just going to outline again some of the details for you that we already reviewed, some of the important pages. Of course, you'll want to read through all of the information, but we did want to highlight those particular pages that required some action on your part, if you will. And what will we do once you have finished filling this out? When you send it back to us, we're going to review it, countersign, and then send you back an executed copy of this participation agreement. And we will send that to the primary contact and site administrator that you identified on page 1. We'll also copy your CliniSync project manager so they'll know that this piece of the process has been completed. Now on to the CHR build form. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the form here for us to view. The purpose of this form is for us to collect information about your organization so we can build your organization within the community health record. So therefore your staff will be able to have query access into the portal. As you'll see here on the first tab we're going to talk about, it's named the Org Details tab. Within the Org Details tab, you're going to give us some of the same information that you gave us in the PA. So you can save yourself some time by just copying and pasting it over. There, of course, is the site administrator, which you had identified again in your PA. And you also, for a CHR project, you can assign a CHR project lead. We find that that is very helpful. Therefore, you can assign a staff member who can kind of work through this paperwork, who can learn the system, train your staff, and be a super user. The next tab that we're going to focus on are the CHR profile descriptions. So within the profile description summary, we're going to basically focus on 3 here. We're going to focus on the registration profile. And what we can share with you is commonly, maybe a registrar or someone who works at your front desk, they may need demographic and face sheet data. They need to do some reconciliation, maybe against insurance details or things of that nature. Sometimes that registration person may also be assigned to opt a patient out of the HIE if they choose. The secondary profile we're going to focus on is the clinical profile. The clinical profile gives the user full access to the chart. Normally we'll see a physician provider would be given this kind of access. And the third one we're going to focus on is the clinical plus consent profile. This is normally for your clinical staff that's working with the patient, maybe pulling charts together. This will allow them not only that access fully to the chart within the community health record that they can query and pull down, but also if they're having a conversation with the patient about their opt status, they'll have the ability to opt the patient in or out as needed. And the last tab that we're going to talk about is the User Details tab. So within the User Detail tab, this is where you're going to provide to us staff members who you want to access the system. There is also, if you want to just start small, that's actually a recommendation of ours. Maybe start with a few staff members, get the process working very fluidly within your organization, and then we can always add additional staff later. So of course here we are looking for the last name and first name of the staff member. The reason why we ask for a work email or ambulatory EHR login, we will try to match that as best we can when we build out the login information for each staff member. Now, if they are not assigned an email at your organization, or perhaps maybe you don't have an ambulatory EHR because that's not a requirement to use our system, you can just simply leave that blank. For organizations that don't have assigned work emails, at the end of your project, when we send out the usernames and passwords, we'll just send those out to your CHR lead. The MPI, if you have that available for your staff, go ahead and fill it in. If not, no worries. That is primarily used for the PDMP or ORS access that we're not going to be talking about today. The next column that you're going to want to focus on again are those CHR profiles. Those are the ones that we just addressed. So for instance, the demographic face sheet, the consent tool, and the clinical user. Just kind of think about what works best in your office. We're going to skip PDMP, you're going to skip SSO, and if you have any subcontractors in your office, then please notate that here as well. In review, some of the tips when you're filling out that user build form is, again, it is a fillable spreadsheet. So you're going to be able to type that information right into the form, save it, and return it to us via emails. And oftentimes you'll note that maybe the site administrator or primary contact may want to assign a staff member as a CHR lead to run the project for your organization. And that lead could then complete the build form, review the onboarding information, and learn to use the CHR to train your staff members. Some of the details to kind of focus in on, so we do know that there were other tabs on that CHR user build form, but you really need to only focus on those org details. Again, save yourself some time, copy and paste that over from your participant agreement. And as we kind of reviewed, here's just another listing of what you might want to think about when you assign those profile descriptions. So the bolded context is the name of that profile. So registration profile, clinical plus consent, and clinical profile. And of course for processing, we will review that. We will look to see that the other prerequisite materials have been received. And once everything is all together, we'll place it in queue for build. And the last form we're going to look at is the CHR project checklist. The CHR project checklist is simply that. It is a checklist to kind of guide you through the process. On the first section, we're going to see contracting. Once you have completed your CliniSync participant agreement and sent it to CliniSync, then you can simply check that box. So the next section in onboarding, as Dottie spoke, the onboarding series is used to help educate you on the process of using the community health record and getting the prerequisite materials together. And just as a reminder, this particular supplemental is to look back to video 5 to clarify and address some of our frequently asked questions. Within your user build form, you've already assigned your resource assignment. If you have placed your CHR lead, or you may be just using your primary contact. And under the consent and MPP disclosure, you're going to learn more about this in video number 3, which talks about security, privacy, and consent. That is a very important video, and it will step you through the reason for that additional layer of consent in addition to HIPAA. And the last piece, of course, being that user build form that we have reviewed. So basically, these are just the various steps that you take to get you through the prerequisite process to utilize the community health record. I do want to note that although the CliniSync participant agreement will likely be sent to us early on, it is usually best to send the user build form along with your updated MPP at the same time. Those are like those last 2 pieces of information that we need before we can build you in our system. In review, you'll just use this checklist as a guide. You don't need to send that to us. It just kind of helps you through the process. And of course, some of the details in each of the sections that we discussed. So again, when that contracting is done, you can go ahead and check that box. When you're going through your onboarding videos, make sure that you pay particular attention to part 3 about privacy, security, and consent. Again, your resource assignment is going to be that CHR lead that you've noted on your build form. You'll learn, again, much more about the consent and notice of privacy practices and the additional statements that need to be added in part 3. As we discussed previously, the CHR user build form. So what will we do when you send this to us? We're going to review it. We're going to verify that we have an executed participant agreement, your updated notice of privacy practices, and your user build form. This is just a listing of the video series for the onboarding piece. So if you have any questions about any of those, please reach out to your community project manager for your region.
We just want to thank you, and we really are excited about working with you. Please feel free to ask any questions of your community project manager, and thank you for joining CliniSync.